Medaka Box is one of the most underrated series, period, and I'm sure my good friend and fellow YouTuber Otaku Dreams would definitely agree with that. And although the series' critique of the battle shonen genre, its themes of nature versus nurture, and the fact Kumagawa is a character are all great, one thing I think the series does to a brilliant extent is writing the perfect infallible character. If you find yourself entertained at any point during the video, then consider liking, subscribing and ringing the bell, as you don't know how much such a small action can do for this channel. Anyway, on with the video. Okay, so before I start discussing why Medaka is the perfect infallible character, I guess I should first make sure we are all on the same page as to what exactly an infallible character is. By definition, an infallible character is a character with no flaws. They are, as the name suggests, infallible. They are unfailing in effectiveness or operation, and are exempt from liability to error. In short, a character who is good at everything everyone likes and someone who will never lose. And on paper, this kind of character sounds pretty boring and uninteresting, which in most cases is true. I mean, the term Mary Sue exists to describe such characters. However, Medaka is no Mary Sue, though she is still an infallible character who is good at everything and never loses. And this comes down to one simple fact. Being infallible is the point of her character. Medaka Box is a story about individuality and what makes individual people special. Medaka, therefore, is this idea taken to a logical extreme. She is someone who is too perfect and too right. She is good at everything and so nice to everyone that she doesn't feel like a real human. She has no apparent flaws, she is in the eyes of many no longer human, but some goddess. Shown brilliantly in the first OP where she is holding the entire academy, her whole world, and the world of the story in her hands, and how her forms are called god modes. She is a perfect goddess, and this is recognised by the other characters in the story. A scientist friend of her father was forced to abandon all his research after a child Medaka solved a problem he could not. He was frightened by how superior the child was to him, and it broke him inside. Medaka, being this perfect human, became inhuman and became alone. She was such a perfect human that she no longer felt human. She saw the good in everyone, which although on paper sounds like a good thing, if you look at this from a different angle, it becomes a lot more cynical. Medaka sees the good in all people as she sees all people equally. She will always stand at the top, so everyone else must stand below. She looks down on everyone equally. Again, she is tragically lonely. No one wanted to be around someone so great, someone who as a child could make their whole life's work pointless. And Medaka, being a perfect person, didn't have the choice to be ignorant of this fact. She full well knew how perfect she was and knew how torturous her life would be as a result. This was only hammered home by the words of a young Kumagawa, who told her that life had no meaning, something she understood and took to heart. However, this darkness didn't come without light, as she also met a young Zenichi, and from them was told something else. I'm sure you were born to make the people around you happy. Maybe there was a purpose to life after all. Maybe her perfectness was a gift to help others. Medaka's main personal conflict comes from the fact she is too perfect. She doesn't have to get stronger in the conventional sense, as she is already the perfect being. However, she still has conflict. Her conflict comes from her place in the world. She went from thinking her life had no meaning to thinking she was destined to save others, to finally realising the worth of human life and choosing to live life not just for others but for herself as well. And this narrative choice to make Medaka this perfect person is one of the most brilliant choices Ishin and Akatsuki made when designing this story, as it opens up the story to so many opportunities and scenarios that wouldn't be possible with a more typical shonen protagonist. Her behaviour is strange and often seems to lack logic. This is because she is so smart, she loops back round to plain stupid. She is unmatched at sport, but doesn't understand sport. She is good at everything, and as such doesn't see the merit in individual things. Like how she sees all people equally, she does the same for everything else. Nothing stands out to her, because, compared to herself, they just don't match up. She is above everything and everyone, but rather than gaining some god complex, she instead tries her best to understand those people and those things below her, as it's all she can do to keep herself from being completely alone. In a way, her character is a deconstruction of the perfect Mary Sue archetype. Just like a Mary Sue, she is good at everything, though as a result she feels alone and as a result questions her place in the world. Like a Mary Sue, everyone likes her, but this is due to her being so perfect that everyone is almost indoctrinated into liking her, making her again feel alone. And again, like a Mary Sue, she is unrealistic even within the constraints of the world, as she is an abnormal among abnormals. She is once again alone. And being alone is such an important aspect of her character due to again the typical Mary Sue being the centre of attention with loads of friends. As well, yes, Medaka is the centre of attention and has loads of friends, She has no one who truly understands her, and as a result is again alone. Even her best friend Zenichi, who knows her better than anyone, admits to not fully understanding her, as he knows that they stand on different footing. Unlike a character like Yuki from Fruits Basket or King from One Punch Man, she doesn't feel isolated due to not feeling that she lives up to her reputation. Instead, she feels isolated due to being far above her reputation. She takes the idea of feeling out of place and alone and runs with it to a logical extreme. She isn't made to show humility or to step down to the level of other people throughout the story. Instead, she stands as a symbol of perfectness and the issues that come with such a character. I mean, the closest she comes to being pulled down to normal levels is in her fight with Kumagawa, where she's actually made as weak as a normal person, but even so she prevails. She's a flawed person due to having no flaws. She is so perfect that she is imperfect. She is the personification of what people think of as righteousness, but even so, no one can understand her. She has a pretty flat line in terms of character growth throughout the story, but that is because she serves another purpose in the narrative, and that is to develop other characters. Just like how in the story she makes it her duty to protect others, in the narrative she is always responsible for developing the other characters. I mean, Kumagawa is so great because he is a perfect foil for Medaka, and his development of realising self-worth and how to care for others wouldn't be possible without Medaka being there as the perfect example of everything he is not. And then there is Zenichi, the normal average guy who through his own effort and hard work achieved great things due to having Medaka, the perfect person, as a goal to aspire to. Much like how Giorno, the Jesus of JoJo's, helps to guide the characters of Part 5 to their destinies, Medaka, the goddess in Medaka Box, helps to make others develop. Her perfectness becomes a great force for helping others, and in a storytelling sense, she becomes a brilliant device through which to develop and expand the other characters. And of course this isn't the only way to write a great infallible character. A deconstruction of the perfect character is great for Medaka Box as a story, but of course there are other ways to write one of these types of characters. The next best example I can think of is Sakamoto from Sakamoto Desuga. Someone so unintentionally cool that he changes those around him for the better. Though the brilliance of his character comes from the series' premise as a comedy, so he really isn't an apt comparison to Medaka. But nonetheless, this shows that there is multiple ways to write a good infallible character. In conclusion, Medaka is too perfect, and as a result is alone with no one being able to understand her. She narratively helps others to develop, and as such helped to give rise to some of the greatest characters in manga history, like Kumagawa. She is a brilliant deconstruction of the perfect Mary Sue, and adds a tragic but realistic spin on the idea of a perfect person. Medaka Box does have its flaws, but the character of Kurakami Medaka is not one of them, as she is an infallible character done right. Comment of the week comes from Giacomo Villani, sorry if I butchered your name, with this insightful and informative comment on the relationship between Megumin and Kazuma being reflected by their use of spells and skills, so thanks for the comment mate, it was very informative. If you have any opinions on Medaka or Medaka Box as a whole, then tell me in the comment section down below, and if you have a suggestion for a future video, then again the comment section is funny enough down below. Also don't forget to check out my Twitter at SevTheS for channel updates and just general chatter, and if you want to talk to me directly, my DMs are always open. Or check out my Instagram at SevTheSin_cosplay to see my cosplays or random anime merchandise. So with all that said and done, I have been Seth the Sin, the deadly sin of geek, and I am signing out. Stay safe everyone.